and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
Hello there everyone, and welcome to this Ascension update for the month of July, but also August, because I always see summer as a total experience in itself. And especially this summer we have, as usually, the period or the era of eclipses. So check out where these eclipses will be happening and when. We will have the first one in 12 or 13 of July, which will be a reset point. This is a very strong partial but still very strong eclipse to activate this new chapter, or like I said, a reset point into something new we're entering into. It acts as a doorway. This began with the Capricorn full moon, which, if you have experienced it yourself, it was a very potent moon to complete a cycle, because we're all in any way or other completing a cycle of a certain culmination. And it was definitely during this time of the Capricorn full moon shown to us, or it was initiated, what needs to be complete before this reset point occurs. Okay, so why I'm calling this Ascension update the Magnetization of Life Force is because it's becoming crucially important for the activation and experience in the physical of what I call the illumined union to occur through our holy vessels, our human bodies. I feel that's why we're given this opportunity to go deeper into the inner work, because also I think planetary retrogrades are speaking on their own. We will have Mercury at the end of July going retrograde. We already have Mars retrograde for I think 2 months or so, 2.5 maybe. This is always an indication that the energy drive that we usually have as an external experience needs to move and become more of an inward drive. So we're going to fuel our inner resources. So I think that's the perfect time to practice this cultivation of life force mastery, to practice the art of magnetization process. As promised, I will also read you some of the excerpts from this book. I finished the book finally in totality. I really recommend this holy trinity of books from Barbara Hand Cloud. This what's it called? It's a Mind Chronicles trilogy. It's 3 books as one. So when we go through these initiations, right, we will have always experiences that make us feel like something has been complete. How do we feel that? Okay, I'm going to tell you my recent experience that I have here. As you know, I've been here, it's going to be 5 years this year, when I came first to live here in the Alps. And when I first came here, the energy was so potent that the drive that I was experiencing, the outward drive, was so intense, and this intensity pushed me to create a lot of the things that, if I wasn't here, this space mirrored my experience of where I need to be physically at that moment. I wouldn't necessarily create the things that I did. But what is happening now within this completion, for the first time, let's say I go into this landscape, I go into this environments, it's for the first time I feel really benevolently withdrawn from the space itself, because the home is the frequency within us that aligns us with the space where we need to be, so that we can have an external experience of home as well. Although it's always initiated from the internal side of life, from our inner initiation. What this means for me and how I experience it now is a complete withdrawal of life force from the experience that was happening for being created for these past 5 years. But it began before, because my energy was moving even before I physically moved to this space. Like now it's also moving elsewhere. So this eclipse season, I feel, is going to be so good for us to prepare us vibrationally to align better with what's coming for us at the end of these retrogrades in the fall months to come, and especially the last quarter of the year. Okay, this is going to be probably when things get really amplified for us. It's always like this, especially Jupiter moving into its own sign of Sagittarius, which is my ascendant, and so many other signs in my chart as well, which is going to be like a super propelling forward motion, especially because Sagittarius relates so much with the truth and nature and the quality of wisdom within us, you know, but also expansion of life. So this will be really good, I feel. So for me, this feels like a summer of divine love. Why am I saying this? For me personally, it feels really important now to be with the frequency of attainment of the union more so than ever. And I will also explain to you the most recent experience I had, which was probably one of the most intense ones I ever had during my cultivation process. But it's also what I'm feeling the words were the summer of retreating, which means moving energy into a new vibrational state. I've already talked about the clean slate. We were very close to that expression. Perhaps some of you have felt this, but it wasn't like a complete right over, or how to say this, okay? What's also important is that we start to understand how does this, where we are, what we do, right? How does this assist the whole? And how do we assist ourselves, of course, in order to assist this process of transition through life force cultivation and sacred dance? I've talked to you before about what is necessary to cultivate union, because when I say union and the way I speak about it, it's not just uniting with another individual, okay? That's the easy thing. People have issues with that. Well, you know, try to have even higher levels of union possible for you, okay? One thing is to unite with another person. Your life force has to align so that you can bring something together, so that you can function as a coupledom formation, or, you know, as a wholesome entity that's no longer just you as the individual. But imagine when I say illumined union, what that means is two beings being complete vessels for spirit, like the avatars of illumined union were in the ages past, okay? This was the seed that was planted at that time. So when I say things like sacred dance, the illumined sacred union, it's not just any person uniting with the other person. This is beyond that. This is what masters were doing in order to have a partnership that serves spirit, not just themselves and their own inner union, okay? So the difference when I say dance or sacred dance is that in the art or the act of sacred dance, you are actually moving energy. You are moving in through the spiraling motion that life force, or Holy Spirit's life force, it's kind of like moves through you. And it's almost like the vision I get is the bees, you know, the bees are dancing in the sky when they're picking honey, and they're kind of like having this sign language with the way they move and kind of formations they're writing in the sky with the way they fly. It's something similar when we dance through life force, or just like random dancing, you know, to the music you like. It's not the same, because with life force dance, what you're actually creating is you're creating a vibration of pure ecstasy. And that's why I want to explain to you, well, much more is shared in my Cosmic Dance for the Galactic Human course. And I go deeply into that, the theory and the practice and the materialization process through that cultivation. But I want to say here is that when you actually have an experience of that, it's not just experience which is like something you call bliss. You feel very good. We all feel joyful when we dance. Like when we sing, we feel amazing. But the sacred dance, what it activates, it's something beyond that. And you have to have an experience of that to know what I'm talking about. So the dance course that I developed a while ago was for the intention and with the purpose of assisting people in that, to start embracing the life force through them, through that act, to understand their bodies as sacred vessels. This is helping to tune yourself to become more and more of a vessel, so that this can occur through you, so that it's like a natural nourishment system of this organic or even orgasmic blissful charge that occurs through you. So I had a recent tantric experience, and that was just yesterday, and it's my first of that kind. So I did a very spontaneous, magical tantric life force dance, and as I stopped, it was just so full of energy. I closed my eyes, I was spinning. Everything was spinning. All I felt was just, when I do that lately, I was always dancing, but I never had experiences past the threshold of when Tantrika was really coming into my embodiment. That aspect of me was beginning to come into the body stage, okay? So what occurred was I felt such spiraling movement. I said, I need to lie down, and I put my clothes off and I just lied on the bed, and everything was spinning. And as I was just focusing on my breath and drawing the energy in properly, which is what I teach you in the Life Force Mastery course called the Tantrica, this is when you actually start to notice this light quotient being brought through you. And this is what's happening. So when you close your eyes, when I closed my eyes in that occasion, everything was spinning, and I felt like something that I also teach in the Tantrica additional part, which is a bonus part of the course, about the galactic pulse of life mastery and how you raise your frequency of consciousness through that implementation practice. So actually what I experienced was everything was spinning, everything was charged with bliss, the breath was just like all that I could do in that moment. And when I wasn't dancing physically, I felt like Tantrica was still coming into dance. And this time, although I usually have a white veil with which I dance, she was wearing a red garment, like a red veil. And she was the root representation, or she was the Magdalene expression. So that completely embodied the sacred feminine in service to Holy Spirit. And I still saw it dancing. I saw the Tantrica dancing, and she was still spinning the energy even when I physically wasn't dancing anymore. And this is something I experienced very radically at this time. And she was spinning the energy so fast, it was like, you know, it comes so fast, at a certain point you come to a stillness. And that stillness is that quantum level. When you make that leap jump dimensionally, even when you're still in the body. So this is what eventually this dance can bring out of us at the level of our multidimensional human experience. I was lying there, and suddenly I see myself as, you know, like inwardly in this vision, and all of a sudden it wasn't even myself anymore. And I saw a man coming towards me, and I look at myself, and I didn't look like I'm now, and it wasn't me. And then I got it. This was a vision of Yeshua Magdalene. And all of a sudden I was watching it like a movie, and they presented all these facets to me and everything that was happening. I was just like, wow. I was seeing things. I was understanding things about the deeper purpose of the sacred tantric rites of passage and tantric union, and of course holy union. And I was just seeing it like being in them, in their exchange, like the archetype. Okay, it was about the archetype. So at the end, I had to say words to receive that in the physical embodiment, to become a part of this initiation, because it was planted at that time through the avatars of the illumined union, which they were. And then it was shown to bring through this message. And I said, okay, am I to share it publicly with everyone on YouTube? And the answer was no, because it's not for everyone, because people need to be sovereign, they need to be initiated ones. Okay, so just like they were anointed ones. And they share with me to create this space to help attune people who want to be initiated into that, not just, you know, tune into it just because it's public. Not all things can be public. That's with the sacred things how it is. And actually never happened to me this way before, but it was really strong, and I understood why certain things had to be they were through them, through this archetype expression. So I actually created a Avatars of Illumined Union. It's like a similar to my mini audiobooks. It's like a gateway I walk you through. So it's a channeled message, and it's also an activation, especially for those of you who feel you are on the sacred devotional union path that serves a greater fulfillment of the divine plan. Holy Spirit, complete vessel to vessel embodiment of the two, serving as one light of union. So why I'm feeling this so strongly is because everything is moving us there, those of us who are in this path. And it feels like all the other things we were doing, all the mission, obsession, and everything is kind of like moving into the background for a while, so that a new mission can be born out of this place of the union, which we now kind of like are focusing on. This is why this came so strongly. This is why they showed me this is important. And they asked me to facilitate that for those who want to step into this anointed path. So you can go to the beloved section of my webpage called Serapina Light, which you already probably know. If not, then you do now. And on the beloved segment, where I have the Cosmic Beloved course and the CD of the Cosmic Journey of the Beloveds, you have now this Empathy Gateway experience as an offering, so you can download that there. And yeah, this was about the avatars of illumined union, which I've talked about before. The seed that was planted at the beginning of the Piscean age is coming to fruition now at the end of Piscean age, as we're moving closer to the threshold of the Aquarian age. Okay, July is also very important in any way because of this beloved gateway, this time of union. It's very important to retreat. I also will be taking a holiday in July. Well, doesn't mean you have to go somewhere where you have a holiday. It's not about that. It's a state when you create an inner template of oasis, so that for a while anything can be a distraction when you need that, when this integration work is required, so that you create the sacred space for that process. So I'll be retreating, and all the things are available as usual, but I'll not going to be focusing on work as much as I usually do, because for me these past few months were crazy busy and active. Even when I did the retreats I needed to do, it was much energy work, movement. And for me, holiday means no, you know, it's like for a while I just need to be in this space of being, not even this energy work you do always when you go somewhere. And it's always challenging. Even when you go for a retreat, it's actually a challenging working retreat, not in the traditional sense of the word work. But I also have an announcement before we go into the magnetization of life force process. I have one mini new service addition on my page with the personal services offerings, because for some people it's really intense, you know, even financially, to have such things as sessions. And I understand that, but my sessions are very lengthy and they go deep, and I always give extra, but I can't give more than extra. It's like a lot of energy I have to carry and hold at that time. But for people maybe who just like a little, like how to say that, like a glimpse on the surface, a little initiatory trigger or a glimpse into where they are, I'm now offering these, what I call the Ascension layouts or Ascension grids, which is a Merkaba positioning or layout of the illumined oracles and crystal work, which you know, it shows the feminine side, the feminine triangle, or your divine feminine and the divine masculine, with the middle point, which is a point of synthesis. So there's a few examples on my webpage, you know, the pictures, how it looks like. If you're guided to that, that's like the most I felt like I need to have something like on all levels, right? That's like the first glimpse, or just like maybe people who are already doing lots of their own inner work, but they just want maybe that higher push of spirit coming through, something that comes as that confirmational process. And then I have these soul transmissions, you know, like it's a little deeper inside, and then I have these sessions. So there's like 3 levels now available. So this is something I really felt deeply. More changes about how these Ascension updates will come in the future will come in the fall, because I'm feeling as well with everything else in our life. Work is a representation of us, because when we inwardly change, things align in the physical as well, in alignment with that change. So I'll be making changes. So now that certain updates will be only available to those who support also the work via Patreon, because I do need support just as well as I'm offering these things. During the past few months, I've really seen that the lack of support does not leave me nourished, does not really respectful to my work, to everything I do, and all these long hours, and all the initiations I go through, and then to pass that on. It's like I always had very minimum requirements. I put everything out freely, but lately Spirit is showing me there needs to be levels, you know, what you offer freely, what you offer for a certain amount of exchange, and therefore, so that will come when that is processed. During the summer months, I'll see what comes through. Yeah, but that's basically that. So this grid work is channeled through Spirit. So this is how I do the layout. I always do it like that. I connect, and then it's sent to you. Okay, it's very simple. So anyway, moving on to the mission of, you know, how do we serve again the planet through this inner cultivation process? So as you know, these things that we're doing, it's not just to increase our own potency, our own energetic work, our own mastery. This is in alignment with us being here for this reason. Why are we here? We're doing a planetary grid work. We're doing a work of sacred service. Okay, so that is super important to understand, because The focus is always and will be, continues to be on serving Gaia. Gaia at this time, through this threshold of the shift of the planetary transition, requires percentages. What does this mean? There's a lot of people waking up. There's a lot of people starting to move energy differently and with more consciousness. But it's still not that point which would say, wow, we've reached the threshold, when it's, you know, beyond 50% of those who are doing it consciously. So she requires, what I say here, the messengers in terms of more massive shifts, so that we tilt this collective consciousness and we tilt it towards the greater half, you know, beyond 51%, because that's all connected with the karma of the overlay that was being played out at this time. We do that by raising the planetary life quotient, and that's why this work with life force and tantric cultivation work is so important, because you're not only doing this for yourself, you're beaming out energy that assists or goes into the light grid and assists those who are maybe just at the edge of shifting, but they're still like, you know, that's why we're here. For those examples, you know, that are, because a lot of souls, extraterrestrial souls even come here on this planet, but they forget, or they get stuck somewhere, or, you know, they totally maybe forget, maybe just a little bit, or maybe they completely forget, and they can't align with their greater mission and greater vibrational potentiality and embodiment. So when we do that, we're actually raising the quotient by putting more fuel, let's call it like that, into this collective whole. So when I had this vision of Magdalene and Yeshua, it was all about that and how they seeded this, and I'll share all in this Avatars of Illumined Union mini MP3, okay, mini gateway and activation. So I want to now share some of the things with you from the book, which describe some of the ways that maybe were used in the past, that were already used, and as a collective of humanity, we somehow forgot about that knowledge. We didn't lose it because it's just laying dormant, but we no longer use these practices to attain greater levels of self-mastery and balance. Why is balance so important? Imagine you holding higher energy potential, then you step into it, okay? Without balance, you can't maintain that. You can quickly attain it, but then you kind of like lose your ground. And that's why balance with everything is so important. Imagine you're reaching greater levels of people. Maybe that in the beginning stages kind of plays with your balance or messes with your balance. All of a sudden you feel you're responsible for more people coming into your space, more information sharing. It's like suddenly you could get overloaded. If you don't move your light quotient of awareness, how you can now at this new current level, the template you've built, you've co-created, how you can function operationally and well, so that you constantly are in well-being state, then again you can lose yourself. And this is what a lot of people are now experiencing. They're saying, I want to go back to how I was before. I was more balanced. You can never go back, because there is no such a thing as going back. You are always moving forward, and you're also at the same time always in your center. And with practicing all these higher, it's not even techniques, it's just ways of knowing life, ways of becoming intelligent through life, ways of life becoming self-birthing through you, and you becoming, life becoming intelligent, illumined through you, so that you are, as I've shared before, a vessel for this highest transmission possible. I know so many people nowadays talking about these unions, and there's oracles and tarot readings and all this available online, but true union, when I say sacred union, is not about, oh, I want this relationship because I don't want to be alone. I want to finally know how it is to be in partnership. It is beyond that. It is about two beings knowing what is the most sacred thing of all. And then how do they stay committed and devoted to this wholeheartedly, without any doubt, without any issues, you know, without things, little challenges happen along their way, they don't know how to deal with it. There can not be such a thing at this highest level of attainment, and that's why I've been talking about illumined unions from a different perspective that majority of the people talks about unions at large. So anytime you're doing conscious breath work, then learning how to, because when you learn that is just the basics, then you need to learn to direct your breath through certain energy centers, feeling centers of your light quotient, so that you can actually magnetize them, that you can charge them with greater magnetic force, because that's how potentiality grows. When potentiality grows, right, expansion is possible. Otherwise it's not. Otherwise it's all a mental process here. And people have large imaginations. That doesn't mean it's magnetically, which means physically so. So in my Cosmic Union and Ascension course, I teach all about this process and how to activate all these parts of who we are: the crown, the higher heart, and the root portal. So without this work and understanding, we're just like aimlessly, even when we're doing energy work, it's just energy work. Doesn't mean it's energy work with higher consciousness. Energy work also, you know, when people say I'm doing energy work and I'm healing these things and whatever, you might be sending out energy. We're all working with energy, but we're not energy beings. Energy is what we work with. We are beings of light. We are light beings, which means light beings who are learning how to more and more consciously expand in their creatorness or creator ability of working with energy, and refining that through our own alchemy or ascension process in the body. So the more ensoulment process occurs, the more you are soulful in the body, or the more soul gets into the body, the more you're kind of having these glimpses, and the more you're naturally guided towards that. So when I do a sacred life force dance, it's not like I decide how I will dance. It's a channel process, just like you channel certain words, higher wisdom of certain beings. You channel the highest language of light is this sacred dance, and you will see how it magnetically influences you. When I had that dance yesterday, I wasn't sleepy then for a few hours. Before, I was kind of tired after dinner, and then I could stay up all night. It just charged me. It was just such a full experience. And imagine charges you. It doesn't just charge you. So when I did that, when I just laid on the on my bed and I was just beaming, I was just all open. I was actually activating, you know, expanding my field. So in this book, I will now read you an example of a few things. The first thing here as an example is the ritual they did in Egypt, and the ritual is called the weighing of the heart. As you know, pharaohs, the way they lived their life when they died, the priests, those who were initiated into these energetic practices, they worked with their field, they worked with their body, they tuned into, they scanned, they did certain work so that they could provide a passage for them on a soul level. Okay, so they could help them to move into those transcendental realms, or not earthbound realms, right? So in this example that's shared through a priest, he describes the process when he is initiated into passing the certain pharaoh. Okay, and in this example, it's also shared how he helps to magnetize these thought forms so that he increases this potentiality, so that he helps in a way this being even after his passageway. You know, that's one example. But what we're doing now, we're doing this when we're alive. We're doing this process when we're fully living and conscious, and we're ascending to a higher level in the physical. That's the difference. So, and we're also doing it ourselves. No one is doing it for us. So that's also that's the biggest difference. So he was explaining in the beginning that as he's undergoing this process, he could not hold any resistance of any of his feelings, emotions in the body, because they would reverberate through many of his own lives and realities. So he's explaining how well trained you actually have to be to perform this process. And again, this is a ritual, a critical ritual to pass his heart. So where he can go next, what he can do next. And he has to do it right. So again, you know, what they were doing in a way at that time was a bit what we would now say, you know, edgy, because you're working on someone or doing for someone else. We would now, in this age of complete self-illumination, we would not dwell in that. We would not go this far. We are at the time, this precipice when it's becoming crucially important that we do this only for the self. The assistance we provide for others is just holding our light. We do that within ourselves. That's the maximum we can actually do. So he then describes this process, right? He said if his emotions would crack, that means he's working or operating at the lower level. He can't be the vessel. That's the whole thing. And I've explained being the vessels before. You have to be depersonalized whenever you're doing any kind of work like that. So when I do a tantric dance, I notice the difference because I'm no longer Polona. I'm not even Aurea. I'm just this tantric being, and it's a shift because I can feel it. For a while I'm still dancing as me. This is how you begin. You know, you don't just go straight from here to, you know, full tantric, blown out cosmic orgasmic dance. It's like a slow door opening, and it's like you're stepping through with each move. It's like you're creating or generating more light quotient, which at a certain level it just clicks. So this is the same process which he describes. You know, when you can create or generate enough magnetization process, a shift will occur. And I'm going to read you this, a few parts only as an example, because it's a long channeling. So I'm going to read you, I'm going to try to find what is important here. So what he's doing for him, he must make the energy circuit between the beings he calls first, he invokes the higher beings, and the Pharaoh, who he does this work on. And if I don't do that, the Pharaoh's higher self, his bot, is captured. Okay, but then in this example, he had some problems with his passage. And he says, first I have to connect the Pharaoh's emotional body, his Ka, with his body before I can help him pass. So he's saying he did not bring this Ka during his lifetime into his body. That's why it's challenging for him. He didn't have enough, I would say, awareness. He didn't bring enough light quotient through that higher awareness. He did not use his body as a temple for his soul while he was living. I have never done anything quite like this, and so I say, well, Horus, help me. Those were their initiatory gods. And even in the beginning, he says, I don't like this. He says, I don't like doing this. So he saw this vision of being protected. And then he said, normally we only have to open the mouth to pass the divine breath. Breath is that connection you make as passing to the sacred, right? To the other world, and for the passage to the sky beings with divine Osiris. But I have to connect in his Ka, his emotional body, to even pass him. The chances are slim. This was such an example. So he calls in the beings to assist the Pharaoh by visualizing them. Then he describes this process, and then he visualizes the Pharaoh's being like hovering above the box he's in this sarcophagus, something like that. So he was miniature. He saw like a miniature version of him. You can see here there's also a picture, but I advise you to get the book, of course. It's always the best version. So he's miniature and he's hovering above the chest, and the more powerfully I can visualize him, the more successful I am. The colors are white light and purple light, yellow light, green light, and the light is pulsating and shooting out in all directions around this miniature visualization of the Pharaoh which I have created. I pump the energy of my being into the visualization. So he then explained how he does that. And then he says, okay, it is really strong, but it doesn't bother me because it comes in through me, through the crown chakra, through the head, all the way around to the top. It shorts out my body a little bit, like short circuit, right? But it's not bad. And then I send it out of my third eye and my hands. It's not light, it's magnetized thought beaming out of my third eye into the visualization, which makes a triangle with my hands. So this is what I showed you in the book. See, he's holding like this triangle here. Again, going forward. So every time I shoot it out, the vision of the Pharaoh above his body glows. So he's bringing more magnetic charge to it. His body becomes radiated, becomes more intense light, and it shoots the color rays away from the image. And the more that I can shoot the energy from the visualization out, the more I can help the Pharaoh. It's important to get the magnetic aura from the visualization and out. The further range I can throw out the aura, the greater the effect is. So in this time, he went really far. And then he asked about this magnetization process. What's the secret about this, right? How he's serving the light. He wants to understand. He says, Master Horus, I ask you, I want to know why the passage of the soul is facilitated with the magnetization of the thought form. I am Horus, and I will tell you the answer to your question only if you understand the gravity of that request and if you agree from that time forward to be in service of the light as much as humanly possible. And he says, yes, and all right, I accept that because I already accepted it when I asked it. I understand the gravity of the question. I wish to know the answer. The soul of the human, that's the answer, is made of star matter, Pleiadian matter, Sirian matter, Uranian matter. The soul of the human is merely a collection of energy. The collection of energy of the soul, the being, is the same matter as the collection of energy of all energy, stars, galaxies, and supernovas. Know this fact in such a way that you have power to merge with this, the energy, and then you can know matter in the eye of Horus, like that divine mana. This information is useful to you in the following matter. Healing is not your soul work. Manipulation of the awareness of this energy through healing is not the issue. However, this is how people heal. But it is not the issue. The issue is that mankind has committed a grievous error. You have been around many times before when mankind has committed grievous errors. You have understood what was happening, but you have been powerless to do anything about these errors. In this lifetime, you have power for the first time over these problems, and the grievous error that mankind has committed is the splitting of the atom and all of the things that are being done in relationship to energy manipulation. So do you see the lower aspect of this energy manipulation has nothing to do with magnetization, which is that pure thought form which starts to glow, radiate, become illumined, eventually becomes illumined thought form. White butterfly just flew. That's correct. That's that spirit there for you. So he shows him what was like the opposition of that experience. The problem is not the fact that this is happening. The problem is that the people who control these forces are the destroyers. That is the problem. The only people who are going to be able to fight them are the people who can also work this energy, but for the light. So when you're doing for the light, you're utilizing it through the magnetization process. This is where divine union comes in. Through divine union, you're able to potentialize this light quotient the way that it cannot happen when we're just as individuals. But this is, like I said, two beings who fully understand these rites of passage, who've gone through their self-initiation, so they can start with the initiations that are required for the coupledom journey. So the point is, the manifestation powers of the masters are greater than the power of dark scientists. Click a double yes to this so you will know you're not powerless. And this is why I'm sharing these videos, not to have more viewers or less viewers, but to put that out, how vitally important this is. This is not about what will you manifest in your life, will you have kids, will you have a car, will you have this kind of car. This is not about that. Those of you who truly are planetary service, you already know that. You know what's your role here, and you know you have a certain responsibility through that commitment you made to come here. For that process. So he says, the key to this technique lies in the magnetization of the thought form, which needs to be worked with, in this case, the essence of this pharaoh. But this technique can be utilized for work on any being who needs healing, passage to another realm, or just energizing. Notice that the technique is a light triangle formed from the hands with one of the 7 chakras, which then creates the pyramid base with the 4th point, which is that thought form. In this case, it was the miniature version he created of the pharaoh. That is your gift to the group in this lifetime, and what is there where your work lies. You now have the power, now that you understand how to do this process. You now have the power to help facilitate the passage of the dead energy. There comes a time on the planet when the negative forces must cease to exist. Exclamation points. Those who have the power of the light bear the ultimate, mark my words, these words, the ultimate responsibility, which is to help the passage of negative forces. So when we do our own inner cultivation process through that magnetization, it's not just for us. Do you see? That's what I'm pinpointing all this time, and that's why I'm advertising my own courses, because it's so important that people do this, that we do this work. This is not for us. This is for the planet, because we are on this planet. If the planet's not here, we don't have an embodiment on this planet. And even if you say, well, I'm not from here, well, there's souls who are from here right now. They're still learning, and they love this planet from a soul standpoint, and they don't want their planet to go into the negative timeline. So we are assisting that process for those who really do love this planet and do wish to see it pass in the proper way into what's the desired divine plan. So Okay, consequences of that work are total. A lot of energy goes into holding people back from dying. This is also important when they're actually ready to go. And you can do that. You can hold people back. The point is, it's time to let them pass. The effect of not letting them pass is extremely destructive to the planet and to the cosmos. What happens on Earth is also going to have an effect on the whole cosmos. If this planet blows up, it may destroy the whole solar system. We already know that. Ultimately, that's why we're here. The masters will not allow global suicide, but healing power is blocked by the negativity and mass of the human mind. So this is what's happening now. So when we do any kind of work, this is the mind level. This is just the mind level he talks about. But then with this tantric divine union part, which is what we do in the togetherness cultivation, serving as vessels. This is when we do work at the root level, which means we are influencing the planetary life force. We're influencing the programs that are being written at the creatrix design. This is the difference, is how deep we can go. So the deeper you can go from the mind level, the heart, and then into the root, then you have greater influence. Not as in, haha, I have the power, but the power becomes self-regenerated or self-propelled through you as the power of love, the power of cosmic force and cosmic laws. So yeah, then he returns to the process, how he does the energy work. He also mentions this because they were then talking about whether that pharaoh should be passed or not, and different angel beings or entities had different opinions about that. In the end, it was a no, but they then said that that they're waiting, all the teachings about the soul of each pharaoh still exist on the walls of Egypt. He was talking about that everything remains the truth, even if to the masses or to the public you're presenting a certain reality, which is what they want to hear. The truth is written there, and it's awaiting the Aquarian age when the priesthood will come and reincarnate again to protect the wisdom. This is also an exclamation point, and it's happening already because we're at the precipice of that age. Yeah, that's that. And then he also describes about the age, you know, different ages, and he said during his time there has been much priestly intrigue, war, even famine. But I know what it was, and I'm very sad. The invaders over the last few hundred years have infected our ritual. Okay, this was then in Egypt. We are losing our power to make our connection to the gods. The age of Taurus is over. We will now have the power of the fixed age. We will not have the power of the fixed age until Aquarius, and this is what we're slowly getting ready for. And in the age of Aquarius, the powers of the Egyptian priesthood will be birthed in many men and women on this planet. So it's not about whether you had Egyptian lives or not. This is about whether this knowledge can return but be used in a way that's appropriate for this day and age. And this is very important. Okay, that's that. Okay. Since we're talking about ages, this is not anymore part of this topic, but I feel I will read it because I think it's interesting, and I think we're gonna complete. Yeah. But what could possibly mean to any being contemplating the beginning of the age of Aquarius? This is a bonus, okay? Actually, the answer to that question is astonishingly simple. This is super breathtaking. The fixed ages, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, are the ages of manifestation. The cardinal ages, such as Aries, approximately 2000 BC to 1 AD, are the ages when new powers are developed. And the issue of the age of Aries was the meaning of free will for the human race. That's really true. The mutable ages, such as Pisces, 1 AD to about 2000 AD, are the but later he mentions the passageway 2100, okay? So that's the difference here in the channeling. Are the exploration of these new powers in relationship. So see how this then, which was developed, how do you then apply it when you're in a relating experience? And the age of Pisces is all about the power of love and the ways in which our free will is limited also by other beings. So how is this in the opposition? And now we enter into the age when the power of love, the power of free will to choose God, which is good, will be manifested. And so now we will have the revelation of spherical time, the knowledge to alter the hologram, the technology to bathe our body cells deliberately with the power of love. And the issue is technological. Humans are curious beings. Their only limits seem to be self-imposed. The glue that holds the whole cosmos together is love, cosmic allurement. I made a video talking about the ultimate truth is cosmic love. And now the last barrier to be broken through is the barrier of fear. And that is, simply put, the key issue of the centaur's eye. The only barrier keeping you from the total awareness existing in you is where the optical fibers connect with the brain. So what you see is what you get. That's kind of illusion, right? Fear lurks there and blocks your sight. And that is why the ancients all say the final barrier is always being blinded by the light, right? Light comes in and you're seeing a projection or a mirage image. So when you ask for initiation, that's what they say. And here it is. So the final thing I wish to mention is what I've already said before. One thing is, when we master this inner magnetization process alone, this is a prerequisite. If we don't do that, we can't exist in a state of illumined union in togetherness. Okay, we can do it alone at a certain quotient, but then it will also require, like I said, a set of new knowledge or skill training and building. So here's one example of the priestess of the Minoan culture. Her name was Aspasia, and she was connecting with Dionysus. You probably know who Dionysus was in many ancient myths. All of a sudden, she was used to doing her own work, but they were called to a mission together. And this was a mission that required both of them at that time. So it talks about coupledom. She said, "We are calling forth all of the earth energies for the people. The connection we're trying to make is making this with two together and not with one." See, when two people work together, for the deepest degree, there is a connection at all levels. This is this spirit-bound union. So whether it's temporary, like they had at that time, just like a temporary union, or it's something you build in a lifetime partnership, it doesn't matter. It depends on your role or assignment in this life. So, but part of my confusion is that Aspasia has not connected with the earth energy before. She could not do it without Dionysus. So they had to come together so that the new level could be applied, so it could be, you know, actually experienced. And then they were asking through their ritual, the oracle, which is basically the living life force of earth coming and kind of like speaking through the barriers that you break through as the anointed or the initiated one. And then Dionysus said that the earth powers are the strongest powers to the human. There are 4 different powers and the 5th one. This is amazing, which is it says here, Aspasia now has to be connected to the earth energies. She must now channel the energy in all 4 directions instead of 3. She always channeled in 3. But she made this connection with Dionysus in this lifetime because this is the passage of the male energy to the female energy. In the time before, he was her teacher. She was guided by him. Now, in this lifetime, this is the time of the connection. This is connection means equality, means divine equality or equal partnership. The connection has nothing to do with the human plane. This is the connection on the universal plane, the plane of the one. This is about union. So the goddess power comes through is a manifestation of that union. Okay, so they talk about that this connection in the polarity is something that has to be made at certain times. So what means is there's certain crucial times in the alignment of the planet that require this, and then there's times that maybe did not require this. And this is when they talked about divine will at the end, they said there will be times, many times in many lifetimes, when this energy will not come to them, you know, like as they were in soul connection to each other. But when this energy comes to them, it's not something to be afraid of. When this power comes, it seems like there is no free will, but it's the greatest free will. So it's this greater will, it's divine will. It is the gift of being one with the universal one without interference of free will. It is the universal center that all humans may know if they let go of fear. So imagine this potentiality, which if you don't let go of the barrier to, you know, this is my life, my will, the way I like things, the way I live, that's even just the first step. You know, divine union, sacred holy union requires us to be, like I said, complete vessels. And this is why these rewrites are now happening to so many people. So again, I'm gonna align everything I've shared today. I know it's a lot, but it somehow all relates together, and I'm always guided to pick parts that do relate. Sometimes it's maybe just someone needs to hear. Sometimes it's something someone needs, like a push or a key, something that unlocks what they've been working on. So just go with that. Know that there's many people who watch, and each of them will have an experience of their own. But I want to again give you some guidelines for this summer of divine love. There's a deep emphasis on divine union in this path. This is now our priority, not for our personal gains, but because the planet is ready for this next stage, which means we are ready and we're getting ready. And you might feel first as an inner pole that something's changing, even if it doesn't change physical. You're withdrawing from things you used to know that appeal to you, that you thought was it, and this is how you're going to live. Things are being rearranged big time. The eclipses will propel that even further, starting with the first partial one in the middle of July. Then the retrogrades will happen. They will trigger buttons. They will make us do the physical rearrangements and all of that. So just stay with the energy. Remember, again, we're each where we need to be. Our own intuition, it's all that matters, because people are at different levels. Even people who talk about union, they're at their own level of, various levels of what they can hold in this lifetime, how much attainment they can bring through. Don't worry about that. It doesn't matter. We're all doing the work either way. It's just that you stay in integrity with what is your level, with what is your mastery in this lifetime, that you stay true to that, that you stay genuine and aligned really with that knowing, because it is so sacred, this knowing. Later I will share maybe more about the sacred dance part. The dance course is super awesome, so it's available and it's at the minimum exchange level as well. And everything I've shared with you, just go check that out. There's always new things happening, so please stay updated with me on Instagram, because I'm always sharing there. And sometimes I do have these offers and things, or I do mini readings on stories, so if you want to stay updated, that's the best place to be. I don't use Facebook anymore. Really, I don't. I just don't like it. I don't like its energy, its vibration. So that's it. I wish you a beautiful month of celebration and everything. What more I'll be guided to share, I don't know. I'll see. Check out the illumined avatars, or avatars of illumined union audio, and I'm wishing you this great gateway, this passageway into the next stage of where we're really being moved into next. And enjoy, 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 with so many blessings, always with divine love, wisdom, and power. Enjoy. Bye.
Welcome into my world, the world of the elven song, magical.